Come up here to the public land that's up here, as you can see, at the very north part of town, and basically build these greenways through our town, as well as Jim mentioned, to begin to build connections with our neighboring communities so that we preserve these larger areas. So that was the vision that we had, and we know where the parcels are, and to some extent we know who the owners are. We recognize always, and they have to recognize always, that the land to achieve this vision and other priority parcels is in the hands of private property owners. And much as we want to sort of, look at people that sell their land or for the developers as the bad guys, the bottom line is that people who own land in this town, at least, that's still the family land, they're farmers or others, most of them are people for whom their land is their major asset. It's their retirement savings, if you will, and you could never begrudge someone the resources to maintain a dignified and comfortable life for the remainder of their lives or for their children, and so we've always had to be respectful of the needs and wishes of the people who own that land. It's not our land; it's their land. The other is that the developers, many of whom we've worked with magnificently, have a tremendous amount invested in building housing in an area in which there is a tremendous demand. And so again, we're in a position where if we're going to achieve the purposes we set out to, we're going to have to work as a partner, in a partnership with landowners, developers, to do this thing in a meaningful kind of way, because we just can't sort of take it. I mean, we've got to work with people, and we've got to be a cooperative venture. It is, as I said, as Jim pointed out, your last line was very special. I mean, that's it. You're going to have to buy it, and that's what it's going to take. I can't say all our efforts have been successful. As I said, I feel, overall, since the Open Space Preservation Committee has begun to get involved in the process of negotiating with the developers, and we've worked wonderfully with the planning board, and I think we've worked very cooperatively with the developers, and so far we've, I feel on that front a pretty high degree of success. On the other hand, while we still hold out hope, some of the efforts that we've made to actually purchase land outright have not gone as well. It's in part because as a public body, we're unable to negotiate to acquire that land in the kinds of discrete ways that are required to ensure the protection of landowners' privacy and special family interests. So we're not, we're a public body, and as we are essentially the equivalent, one face of the town. So this has been a tripping point for us, and as you'll hear, one of the main reasons why we were so eager to see the land trust get off the ground. We've worked very hard in the past year or two to really increase the amount of public education about the importance of open space preservation through various public education programs appearing on the cable channel. We have a trail map that's about to come out this summer. I'm hoping it will be obsolete as soon as it hits your mailbox, because we're hoping to get yet ever so much more in the way of open space preserved for trails. But on the other hand, we want to make sure that people in the community get out there and see and use the precious open space that we still have available, because there's no better way to win support for open space preservation than to have people feel the value of that land, particularly the newcomers who don't have the memories that many of you have of the farms and the kind of a community that this was 20, 30, 50 years ago. Obviously, it doesn't even need to be said that one of our highest priorities this past year has been encouraging the creation of the Westborough Community Land Trust. We've had that as a central priority in the open space and recreation plan for a variety of purposes. I mean, as I've already described, we needed a vehicle that was essentially town but not town. We needed a vehicle that was of the community, whose membership it was owned by the people of Westborough in the sense that it was a membership organization. But we needed a private, non-profit vehicle that could operate discreetly to engage in the kinds of negotiations that are necessary to acquire land. That didn't have to do everything in a public meeting where it would appear, for example, on television. I mean, let's face it, these are extremely sensitive kinds of negotiations, and if we're going to really work with particularly private landowners, we need to have the ability to operate with a pretty high degree of discretion. I mean, excuse me, with to be discreet, in other words, discretion in that sense. One of the major purposes, as I say, was this, to create this alternate vehicle for land acquisition. A second was to create a vehicle, a nonprofit vehicle, to receive gifts of land. One of the problems people were frustrated by was that they couldn't guarantee, for example, a developer would build a parcel and then they would say, well, we're going to donate this section to the town at the end of the build out, and then they bring it to town meeting and the town wouldn't accept it. And we wanted to have an alternate nonprofit vehicle. It's an inducement. People would be more likely to give pieces of land under those conditions. We also wanted, obviously, to have a vehicle that would provide the kind of tax incentives that make gifts of land possible. And as a nonprofit corporation, we'll be able to do that, so that we should be able to work even better with both private landowners and developers who are looking for some tax incentives as part of their projects. And the third major purpose was obviously to ensure appropriate stewardship of open space, to both protect the critical lands and wildlife habitats here in town, and to provide for the passive recreational needs of our residents, so that we want to be that stewarding organization and help to take care of the land that we do acquire. I would say that in addition, something else has happened in the process of forming this land trust. And I want to acknowledge it because I think that it's in some ways one of the most important things that's happened out of this effort. And that is that it's really, I think, served to help build community. As I look around tonight and the room is packed with people who are interested in working together to achieve these purposes, it's really kind of thrilling. And I can only imagine that if I were Chris Allen or Steve Hull or Ken Hausman or Tim or some of you who were there at the beginning, that you'd be feeling this even more. I mean, there are a lot of people in this community who worked a lot of years without this kind of support to make what we're trying to achieve today possible. And we owe a tremendous debt of gratitude to them. You've built the foundation on which this is possible. Sometimes people come up to me and they compliment me on my leadership on the Open Space Preservation Committee, and I really feel rather humbled, because I sort of feel like, well, I just happened to walk in the door at the right time, but I didn't do all the work. It was done by all these people who came before me and who are partners in this 100% all the way through. The hard work of everybody that's been part of this endeavor, whose name's Tim Red and many, many others, is really what's made this possible. And I guess in some ways the most exciting part is what a great time we've all had doing it. I mean, I think it really hit home this weekend, as many of us were talking to each other and mourning together at the loss of Ellie and Jack Pepper, who were also so involved in this. Here I was, a stranger to Westborough not 3 years ago, and I feel like I've made a most magnificent set of lifelong friends, and it's really been a great privilege to be able to do that. So I guess that part of the building of a community, coming together, working for something that we all deeply care about, is something that I think is an added reason for going ahead. Well, let me just say a word about what's ahead and then turn the program back to Tim. Even as we celebrate tonight our creation, we have to bear in mind that we've got a tremendous amount of work ahead. Not only do we face the immense task of raising the funds needed to acquire open space, but we're going to have to face the challenges of making difficult choices about how to spend it to maximize our conservation capability. There's going to be a lot of times when the risks are going to feel gigantic. And on the other hand, we all have to realize together that if we don't take those risks, we're going to lose. And we're going to lose more than the loss of open space. We're going to lose our ability to control and direct the quality of life in our town for years and years to come. So I guess I can say I'm heartened that at least we're going to face those real tough choices and risks and so forth together, and tell you all of you how much, as chair of the Open Space Preservation Committee, as well as someone who plans to remain active in the Land Trust, I look forward to working with you. Thank you.
Thank you. We're going to take a minute to reinforce a few of the things that have already been said. First, we're in an era, we don't have the luxury of taking land away from Native Americans or from people who don't have a clear title to the land the way the West was acquired. If you go west in the western United States, you'll know that in a state like New Mexico, 80 to 90% of the land is either owned by the federal government or managed by the Bureau of Land Management. Even in the state of New York, most of upstate New York is under the control of the Adirondack, New York City water authorities, which manage the Adirondack wilderness for the benefit of the water resources of the city of New York. That was built in the 1890s and before. That era is gone. We're in an era now where if you truly believe that open space is important to the quality of life, and if you truly believe, as I do, that overdevelopment of our town is going to be an added burden on all the taxpayers and on every individual citizen, then we are going to have to work together, and we're going to have to acquire the land the American way. We're going to have to buy it, and there's no two ways around that. That means it means a tremendous amount of effort, and time is short. We are going to be working. I'm assuming that the membership will ratify our notion of who should be on the board of directors in the slate. But we're going to be working very hard over the next year to establish a strong financial base for this organization, to establish our credibility with the business community and our credibility with the planning and land use community, our credibility with the taxpayers in this community. We need everyone's assistance. This is a very important task. You see the T-shirts back there. Now we've joked a little bit about the T-shirts. I think it's a beautiful logo, and I personally will be very proud to wear those everywhere I go. I probably wear one with the logo in front and a logo in the back. But it will be meaningful. It will mean a lot for citizens, for your neighbors to see you supporting the Westborough Community Land Trust, because it is a community. When we were talking about back in January, and those cold nights in January, when we were talking about a name for this organization, it seemed trivial at the time, perhaps, but we spent a long time talking about what the name of this organization should be, because naming is a very, very important, almost sacred task. And we decided that this would be the Westborough Community Land Trust. Community is of the utmost importance to everyone here. We will try to represent the community. That is an extraordinary obligation. One of the things we're going to be developing this year, which is going to be a very important part for all the members and for the Board of Trustees, is a code of ethics which will govern every member who works for the Land Trust as a volunteer or as an officer or on the Board of Directors, which will make very clear what the obligations of every person who works for this entity will be. And that will be to hold the community interests separate from their own, and to always be vigilant for any kind of conflict of interest. I think that's one of the hallmarks of this organization, is that everyone is going to be committed to that goal. We are going to work for Westborough, for our town, for our community. We're going to build a land trust that is going to make everyone proud. Having said that, and I will now invite some other people to come up, and let's see, I see Leslie Drolin's name. Leslie, would you like to come up? Oh, she's got on one of the new attractive T-shirts.
Just have it. The Westborough Community Land Trust T-shirts. It's just the beginning of our fashion empire. First the T-shirt, then the sweatshirt, then. When I first came in tonight, I was a little concerned because I had planned to talk about membership, but I hadn't planned to have any plans or dreams. And I was pleased to find out that Ed Al will be discussing that, and I don't have to. So I'll just talk a little bit about membership. I went to the Museum of Science with my family a couple weekends ago, and similar to the numbers that we heard Jim discussing relative to the town of Westborough, I noticed that population clock that they have there, where they show how the population of the world is incrementing at faster than a human being a second. And that one digital clock was so overwhelming. And given that the Science Museum is kind of future-oriented, it kind of spurred, and I was there with my children, spurred thoughts of the future and the kind of world that they would live in. And I have to tell you that having just seen the Antarctica movie in the Omni Theater, where they discussed the research that discovered the depletion of the ozone layer, my thoughts weren't particularly positive, and I thought, where do you start? Where do you start to ensure that your children and your children's children are going to have clean air, open space for recreation, and just for the sheer beauty of it? What do you do? Looking at this clock, it's so overwhelming. How do you stop it? How do you make a difference? And then I realized that we're already starting. That that bumper sticker that you see on the car that's going too slow in front of you that says, think globally, act locally, there you go. It's so ubiquitous, we don't even think about it anymore, but that's really what we have to do. By caring and tending for our piece of the earth, we're starting to make the difference. And then by serving as a model for other communities, we're starting the process that needs to begin for us to succeed or to perish. As a working mother, I know that in various phases of our lives, we're all able to contribute in different ways. Sometimes you can contribute with your time. Sometimes you can contribute with financial resources. And